i2b is another JR brand that you see around the place, not surprisingly, right near JR stations. Okay, point of differentiation, trying to be a little bit kind of classy and be a curator of various brands of retailers and whatnot. They can be pretty tough landlords, I hear, but they're obviously going to tune up the retail mix and brand mix based on particular destinations. And so i2b is a kind of a neutral, overarching brand, which you can put a whole lot of different things into brand-wise and customer experience-wise. Okay. But the common thing, of course, is JR has a huge head start in terms of the real estate, because like this one here in Yotsia, it's built literally right on top of the railway station. Why don't they just call it JR Shopping? Well, doesn't quite evoke, does it? Within the JR portfolio of brands, another one is JEXA, a completely different enterprise from what we associate with JR, obviously, as a railway company. JEXA, as some of you will know, is a sports club, swimming club, and offer a whole bunch of swimming lessons for kids. If you look around, you'll see that very often JEXA facilities are located quite close to JR. This one here, the swimming pool, and the sports facilities are right next to the railway tracks at Yotsia Station. So obviously they're making the most of the real estate that they have lining the tracks there. But branding it as JR doesn't seem to make much sense, because obviously it's just such a vastly different business, and so they use the JEXA brand instead. Very distinctive brand, though they could give the building a bit of a wash, couldn't they? Come on, guys. Your brand's attached to a very dirty building here, not very smart. Well, I guess when you're JR and you're so used to being monopoly, you don't quite think in those terms. But anyway, give it a bit of a polish. Come on, there is some competition in this particular market, although not so much competition given the location. Well, when you think JR, part of the problem is you think this. Crowds of people heading home, even worse in the pandemic. So it's not necessarily the premium brand experience, even though all in all it's not a bad train experience, probably one of the best in the world actually. It's still associated with big crowds and crushes and all the rest of it, and hardly exclusive, is it? So you can understand why JR might actually want to create a whole bunch of sub-brands. Look at these people. I thought we were having a pandemic and stay at home. Oh, hang on, I'm part of the problem. Oh well.